Good evening, and thank you once again for joining a District of Illinois Fireside Chat series. For those joining us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, thank you for joining us this evening for another riveting conversation with a brother from the District of Illinois who we are pleased to present to you all this evening. I am Brother Dr. Leonard C. McKinnis II, and I serve as the Illinois District Director. I am joined tonight with our moderator for this discussion, Brother Chuck Smoot, who is the District of Illinois historian and who also sits on the Regional Historical Commission. Brother Smoot, good evening. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Brother McKinnis. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Tonight will mark 50 hours of the Fireside Chat series. And what an extraordinary time we've had. I want you to know, Brother Smoot, and for those who are engaged tonight, this Fireside Chat series has collectively been engaged by over 3,000 individuals collectively. And so we are just so excited to continue doing this and to present brothers who we believe are instrumental and certainly who you should know. So in just a moment, in our tradition has been, I'm going to get off stage and yield to Brother Smoot. But I do want to say something about the brother who is coming on this evening. You know, Brother Smoot, I joined the fraternity in 2001. I was a young college student, joining Alpha Phi Alpha. I like to tell people I was made at Mu Mu, but I learned how to do Alpha and Mu Mu Lambda, and over the years, there have been many brothers who I have observed and who taught me what it means to do Alpha, not just be Alpha. And the man we're presenting tonight, Brother Walter Bauldrick, is certainly one of those individuals. As a young college brother, he was instrumental in helping to shape my line, which included people like Seth Wilson and Brad Bozen and Daniel Taylor, become men of this fraternity. When I was a young, not even almost 20-year-old brother in this fraternity, Brother Walter Broderick gave me one of my first early preaching experiences and permitted me to exercise the gift that God had given me. So this is personal, and I am really excited to welcome him here this evening. And so with that, Brother Smoot, let me welcome Brother Walter Baldrick to the stage, and I'm going to be able to yield to you. Brother Walter Baldrick, good evening, good sir.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Good to see you. Looking forward to this occasion.
Indeed. So, Brother Smoot, I'm going to yield. I look forward to watching this discussion. I'll be back shortly, obviously, to thank Brother Baldrick and to thank those listeners who have joined us from the 3 platforms that we are now streaming live on. So, with that, Brother Smoot, I wish you an extraordinary discussion tonight and looking forward to this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Brother McKinnis. We appreciate you. And Brother Baldrick, I think McKinnis is running off because, too many AME folks in the same place makes some people nervous. So, but, Brother Baldrick, I do want to thank you. I am profoundly honored, as is our district director, that you agreed to do this conversation. We've been looking when the idea first came up, to feature you for a fireside chat. He and I both got excited because neither one of us knew at the time our relationship to you, my relationship to you, his relationship to you. And then we started talking and trading stories and like, okay, well, this is going to be really great, so we can't. So we really have been looking forward to this. So what I want to do, Brother Baldrick, before we really get started, I did request a bio from you. So I do want to read from the bio so people can understand a little bit about your background, and then we'll talk a little more about your background and you coming to Chicago and things like that. So with that said, the Reverend Walter R. Baldrick Sr. is a native of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where he grew up in St. James AME Church. He received his undergraduate degree in civil engineering from South Carolina State University. Upon graduation, he joined Universal Oil Products a leading international manufacturer and licensor of process technology and technical services to the petroleum refining, petrochemical processing industries. He has held various positions during his tenure with the company and ended his corporate career in the position of general manager. Brother Bauldrick retired from the company after 33 years to devote his full attention to Christian ministry. In 1980, Reverend Bauldrick was graduated from McCormick Theological Seminary in Chicago with a Master of Divinity degree. In that same year, he was ordained an itinerant elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church at the 100th session of the Chicago Annual Conference. He has served as an assistant minister of Canaan AME Church in Maywood, Illinois, and Coppin Memorial AME Church in Chicago. He was assigned to the pastorate of Bethel AME Church in Robbins, Illinois, in September of 1982, and then in October of 1986, he was assigned to Bethel AME Church in Evanston, Illinois, where he completed 18 years of service as a pastor. In October of 2004, Reverend Bauldrick returned to the historic Coppin Memorial AME Church, where he served previously under the Reverend Charles S. Spivey as assistant minister from 81 to 82. Coppin does indeed have a rich history in African Methodism and also in the city of Chicago, providing the AME Church's first general secretary, Dr. Russell Brown, and 4 bishops, including Bishop S.S. Morris and Bishop James H. Mayo, who were elected from the pastorate of Coppin. Bishop Robert Thomas Jr., who grew up in Coppin, and Bishop McKinley Young, who served as an assistant minister there. While at Coppin, Reverend Bauldrick led the congregation in establishing a joint venture with the Interfaith Housing Development Corporation in the building of the Coppin House, a residence for young people aging out of foster care and for grandparents raising their grandchildren. The 54-unit residential facility is the first of its kind in the state of Illinois. And in addition, Reverend Bauldrick has served on the Washington Park Steering Committee in the revitalization of Washington Park area in Chicago. In October of 2008, he was elevated to the position of presiding elder of the Milwaukee District by the senior bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the Right Reverend John R. Bryant, who was then the presiding prelate of the 4th Episcopal District. Excuse me. He also was appointed the district treasurer and chairman of the Episcopal District Office Restoration Project. Reverend Bauldrick has been involved in a number of civic and religious organizations. He has been a member of the Alliance of AME Ministers, served 2 terms as president. He served on the AME Board of Examiners of the Chicago Annual Conference and past presidents of the Evanston Ministerial Alliance. He is a life member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and a past president of the Mu Mu Lambda chapter, where he was named Brother of the Year in 2000. And in that year, the fraternity identified him as an outstanding contributor with an article that was published in the 85th edition of the Sphinx magazine. He has served as the chairman of the Mu Mu Lambda Education Foundation and a board member of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Education Foundation, representing the Midwest region. And he was also the chair of the 2009 Regional Convention in Oak Brook, Illinois. He is married to Patricia White Bauldrick, a retired grade school principal in the Chicago Public Schools, and they are proud parents of 3 adult children, 2 of whom are members of Alpha Phi Alpha and also life members. And he and his wife have lived in the Chicago area for more than 40 years. Officially, Reverend Brother Bauldrick, welcome to the District of Illinois Fireside Chat. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you, brother, for the opportunity to be here with you and to share with you tonight. And let me start off first by telling you I don't deserve all of the comments that you've made. It was so many others that were there working hard, doing great things, and because I was the pastor, they just labeled me. But I appreciate where we are and what we've done. as a group, and impact that we have made in the Washington area, and also throughout the city of Chicago. And now I'm officially retired. So
Yes.
what that means in AME literature is that you can't take an assignment, but you still can work.
Yeah.
So I'm still doing a little something for the church, working under brother Bishop Frederick A. Wright, and we're looking forward to one day having a meeting with him, since he is a staunch brother of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity.
Absolutely. I had the pleasure of meeting Bishop Wright at the regional convention this past year in Indianapolis. So we're definitely looking forward to connecting with him in the future. And before, I can tell a couple of personal stories about you, my connection with you. But before we get into all of that, can you tell me a little bit about you growing up in North Carolina? You grew up in Winston-Salem and became a member of the AME Church there. So can you tell me what was it like for you growing up in North Carolina during that time?
Well, I grew up in an environment pretty much like most of the fellows my age, I'll put it that way. We didn't have very much, but we made a lot out of what we did have. And I can remember that many times that we had to share, and not only share among ourselves, but share with other families. But it was an interesting life because we never thought we were poor. We knew we weren't rich, but we didn't think that we were poor until we later on in life we found out that it wasn't for the grace of God where we would be. And right. so we thank God for that. But I grew up in Winston-Salem and proud to be there, and still occasionally check back in there because that is home. All I have now is a bunch of first cousins across the city.
Okay.
But growing up in Winston-Salem, it wasn't difficult because you had so many caring people that would share their life with you, provided that you are willing to receive that. And I found that to be the case for most of us who grew up in Winston-Salem and moved on to other cities, that we were always there to help one another. It was a very interesting environment. But I stayed there, and my mother, who I give all credit to, my mother was very, very kind. I was the only boy in the family, and she treated me very well, spoiled me, did anything for me, and God bless her and all that she did for her son. But I remember her always making the statement that one day I was going to go to college, and because we had no money to be talking like that, and she said to me, she said, "We're gonna go to college. You're going to college, and if I die, you sure enough going to college, And so she always was positive in trying to uplift me, her child, and the Lord blessed us with an opportunity to move, and based on a job offer that was given to me, and my mother gave me $100 in 20s, and put me in a car and sent me to Chicago, and I've been here ever since. And that was in 1968 when she did that for me. It was
the job that brought you to Chicago.
It was the job that brought me to, and I want to say this: it was the job, but it was affirmative action. They needed people like me, and I needed people like them. Okay, and I'm not embarrassed to tell people that affirmative action got me started, but it was hard work that kept me there. and but it was good. The Lord has always been good for me, and I thank Him for that specialness, that relationship that I've had with God for so long. That anyway, I could preach on that. But go ahead.
And so, okay, so you got to Chicago and you worked as an engineer. What was it when you started at your job? Were there a lot of other blacks who were involved in the company that you worked for, or and that you interacted with, or were you, were you one of a small group of individuals?
To my surprise, I had no idea. It was three of us, one chemist, one receptionist at the door, and myself. And I had no idea that I was working for a company that was basically all white. And but the good piece about it, God placed me in a good setting where people were willing to help me and to migrate even to higher levels. So that's something I always want to say to people, because some people don't get the opportunity to have the start, and I was able to get it because of affirmative action, and I'm pleased with that. That did happen.
Well, and since you bring this up, I mean, there's been a lot of conversations in the news and media lately, particularly what's been coming out of the White House. As being a product of affirmative action, how do you see the need or the relevance for affirmative action today? Do you see it as just as important, less important, or what's your view on the necessity of affirmative action today?
But it's interesting. I would not have been saying what I'm getting ready to say if the climate wasn't like it is, because we got a good start and we were heading in the right direction in terms of mingling, co-mingling. I'll put it that way. But when we see how evil can just penetrate things, you get afraid of what's going to happen. I can assure you that there are young men and women who are far more qualified than I am, not getting the start because of the foolishness of people, okay, and thinking that that God's going to sanction that. But I'm not opposed to affirmative action because it got me where I am today, and I think we just need something to make certain that people get the fair opportunity to show their skills, and that's what I think we need to do today.
So and thank you for that. So you came to Chicago. When did you get called to the ministry, and when did you begin your ministry?
Okay, I started ministry in 1976. Is when I entered into when God called me to the ministry, and I was stunned that I was looked upon as quality enough to be a clergy, but learn later on God makes you what He wants you to be, and that's not a problem. Right. Okay. Right. In terms of that, and so it's been a good journey, and not that it's been a perfect one, but I don't have a problem repeating my life.
And so you went to you were a member. Now, were you a member of Canaan originally, or were you a member of another church before you entered into the ministry?
Well, obviously, my membership was really with St. James AME Church in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Right, right.
And for a while, that I kept that, and we were living in the Canaan community of Maywood, and finally, I just the wife decided it was time for me to join Canaan. Right, and that's what I did. I joined. We joined Canaan, and had a nice journey there. The pastor then was very coming to us. So it's just doors open for me that it was unbelievable. And that's why I keep reminding myself and to others, people will do for you if you give them that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you went to seminary, went to McCormick. You got an MDiv from McCormick. You served at Coppin, and I should say, Coppin is one of the historic Black churches in Chicago. And it's one of the historic Black churches that actually we don't hear enough about. And so your time at Canaan and your time at Coppin, what was that like, and how did that prepare you for becoming a senior pastor?
Okay. Well, I had two stints with Coppin. One is after I finished McCormick, then Reverend Dr. Spivey invited me to be on his staff, and I accepted that, and he said this to me, brothers. He says, I'm going to pay you. I said, well, I don't need any pay. I got money coming into the house. He said, no, I'm paying you $15 a month. And I said, well, you can keep that. He said, no, you're going to take that. Okay. And so he paid me $15 a month, to go to work at Coppin and to do some really great things with the people. And taught me a lesson that in the church, you don't do anything for free,
Right.
But you do things that will be productive for people. But I want to track back a minute.
Okay.
Say, when I started at UOP, the company that brought me up here to the north. When I started, I didn't have very much. In fact, I didn't have that $100 my mother gave me. I didn't realize $100 didn't go that far, and the company said to me, because it was over a holiday, they gave me some money, because they knew that I didn't have any money.
Okay.
And so they advanced me, so I thought that they were just, I had to pay the money back, but no, they took care of me. In fact, when I went to seminary, I could take off from UOP, go to seminary and do what I need to do there, and return back and do it and make up the hours later on or whatever. Nobody ever criticized me or never gave me, stopped me from progressing. And it could be that because we were United Methodist affiliated, Smooth. I'm just, maybe that's why they did that, but they shouldn't have did do that for us, and allowed me that opportunity to drive from Evanston, Illinois, which where the Evanston is, all the way down to the University of Chicago, where our classes were. And of course, I was with the Presbyterian folks. They were taking care of me as well. But
and so I want to pivot just a little bit, because one thing I didn't realize when I was looking at something, actually this year will be your 50th year in Alpha. You were initiated in December of 1976.
Yeah, December.
What was it that drew you to Alpha? Were you drawn to Alpha when you were a undergraduate student, or was it something that you experienced after you graduated?
It's more like after I graduated.
Okay.
My time in college was really taken up. In fact, I was a swimmer, so we were in practice of 6 days a week, and so I didn't have a lot of time to pledge and do things like that in college, even though maybe I had a choice to do it. But I would not have, while I was in college, if I had pledged in college, it wouldn't have been Alpha. And
okay.
So the Lord fixed that for me. Okay? I maybe didn't have the right sense, but He did that for me. And how I became an Alpha, though, I have to credit that to Jim Ivory, and I call his name even though some may not know who he is. He saw some of the things that I needed in my life, and he provided for that. And money wasn't the issue, but intellect. I mean, being able to sit down and have a decent conversation, because I grew up in the hood. I mean, where you cuss people out. I mean, you sit down and be professional about it. But so he kept insisting that I need to join the fraternity, and I couldn't see it like I see it today, but it no question about it. The impact that Alpha had on me is unbelievable. Okay, and so I thank Jim for that, and I had the privilege of eulogizing him when he did pass during the eulogy, but it was not just Jim, but Jim brought the other people who could help me. He brought them to the table as well. And so it was good. And see, in that day, you didn't have elections on who's going to be the next president. They decide that when they're going to put you in the slot, and you're going to you're going to do what president. And that's an interesting philosophy of how you can handle people like that. But I knew that I did not have the skills to be the president of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Chapter Mu Mu Lambda. I knew that, but on the other hand, I didn't have to worry about it because they supported me. They did things that I needed, and they took a real. If you were a young brother, they're gonna take care of you. There's no question about that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so I credit Jim for what he did, and there were others in there as well, but Jim was my sponsor.
Okay. And so your pastoral track, took you to Evanston, right. And for those who are not aware, Evanston is a northern suburb of Chicago, considered somewhat of an affluent suburb, depending on what part of Evanston you're in, I guess. And recently we've had there's been a fair amount of attention, thanks to shout out to one of my chapter brothers, brother Dino Robinson, who's done a lot of historical research on the intersection of African Americans and the trajectory of African Americans in Evanston, not just associated with Northwestern, but on its own. Mm-hmm. What was it like pastoring in that type of environment?
I would the big difference we have is Bethel Church in Evanston were more Pentecostal than we were as the AMEs, I would say, would sit, okay, and that was a challenge, you know, to be able to handle, or should I say, encourage and motivate people to and see the difference in your own life. It was an interesting thing to me because I sit in the pews a many times, but we never say no amen. We just sat there and kept our mouths shut. That was the way we worship.
Right.
And but that church did more for me than any church has ever done. Okay, for anybody else, and I'm surprised at the growth that took place. We brought a new culture to Evanston. We didn't back off. I'm still not Pentecostal, but I didn't back off of that for if people wanted to maintain their way of worship. That was fine with me. I didn't have a problem with that. But I was able to motivate and encourage people to do some things that they weren't used to doing. For example, it was a really landlocked community. Evanston is, they don't have any vacant lots. It's like you said, it used to be all affluent. Now it's just the northern part of Evanston that have the money. But to get back to it, those people knew something, and they were able to convince me that all things were possible through God. I stood in the parking lot and made an offer on the house because we needed the parking space. I made the offer on the house. The guy accepted the offer. That was on a Saturday. I went in on Sunday. I told him, then I said, okay, I made the offer on the house and told him we'll have the down payment on today. I said that to the congregation, and they immediately came up with the money that was needed and necessary to pay for it. I've seen too many things, so that had happened with that church. Even with the issues that we used to have, they believed in that the ground that the church was on was holy ground, and they weren't about to move from that spot.
Right.
But we needed more space. We tore out the whole back end of the church, and it was exposed for 2 months for the construction. Not a single thing was stolen or taken.
Wow.
In 2 months.
Wow.
Okay. And not only that, but at that time, drugs were a big issue. And we had dealers, In fact, they used to call Evanston, the Evanston cops used to call Bethel Church the pickup place. They would drive right through our parking lot, get their drugs, and drive on off on the next street. But not a single person was touched. Okay. And we were able to, get some to give up the drug practicing, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and that's the piece that I want to make sure that I let you know. It's not that what I did, it's what the people needed, and somehow or another God fed that to them so that they could see it for themselves, and so I don't take credit for all of that. For the most part, I stayed out the way so that the people could grow and develop and can see some things that life can be better without drugs.
Right.
Life can be better. And they knew that because their parents, the senior members, they had an impact on everybody in the church, and they still do. Okay. Right. And it's been good. It's been good.
Well, the one thing, as Brother McKinnis referenced earlier, and as I referenced, I had interactions with you when I was coming up. As when I read in your bio that you were over the board of examiners for the AME Church, and for non-AME folks, understand those board of examiners, was one of the facilities that was a pastor ordination in the AME Church, and you were over fourth year ordination, and you were one of my instructors when I was going through ordination. And I remember you always being very supportive of young ministers, but and supportive and encouraging during that time, and offered a sense of comfort. And and I've told the story I'm about to tell. I got to tell it because I tell it all the time. But there are times I had the pleasure of preaching for you once, and I drove the late presiding elder Roy L. Miller. I drove him out there when I think it was church conference that I drove him out there for, and Reverend Miller didn't feel like preaching, so he told me to preach, and I preached. You loaned me a robe, but I used the poem "If" in my sermon.
Okay.
And Reverend Miller didn't say anything about me being an alpha when he introduced me. But after I got through preaching, after service, I remember you walked up to me and you took my hand and you gave me the alpha challenge. And I was completely surprised. I was like, how you know? How'd you know I was an alpha? And you said, and I'll never forget this, only alphas use "if" in sermons. And I remember this like it was yesterday. And what I've noticed is you were right. Because every time I've heard "if" used in a sermon, it always comes from an alpha. And so, but the transition is one of the things that I learned, as I mentioned to you before we came on the air, I realize now another brother that was over my ordination process, Brother Nelson Walker, and Brother Albert Tyson, who, while he was not a brother at the time, did join the fraternity later. And when studying the history of Alpha, particularly in Chicago, one of the things I notice is that we have a big intersection between Alpha Phi Alpha and the AME Church. Yeah. Going back to, I am 99% sure that late Archibald Carey Sr., Bishop Carey, was a member of Alpha. Later, his son also became a member. And I could run the list of a bunch of AME ministers, pastors, here in Chicago and elsewhere. Tommy Higginbottom, was initiate of Xi Lambda, and we can talk all of that. But do you, I remember Bishop Henning, the first time I met him, and I had on Alpha Pen, and he came up and, he made me grip. And I remember one bishop, I can't remember his name at the moment, but during annual conference, he put out on the thing, he wanted to take a picture with all of the Alpha ministers. And it was like half of the pastors got up for the picture. It was like, at least 15 to 20 of us. So I bring this up for, did you see that connection between the fraternity and the AME Church? And do you think there's something where, Alpha clergy get drawn to the AME Church, or the AME Church draws in Alpha clergy? Or do you think, maybe sometimes it's just a bit of a coincidence?
No, I think what I've learned is, I think we have territories that we have in certain places. Alphas are very strong, but you go down to Florida, you may see another relationship between the church and the organizations. Right. And that was kind of new to me, because I didn't realize that. I thought everybody was alphas, but we commingled very well. Okay. Right. Charles Wesley was the historian.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And he did that.
And I think most people don't know, in addition to Charles Wesley writing the history of Alpha Phi Alpha, Brother Wesley also wrote the history of the AME Church.
Right. So that, so there's always been a close relationship between Alpha Phi Alpha and the fraternity. It's always been. I mean, Bishop Cousin. Okay.
Right. That was Bishop Cousins who asked for the picture. That's what I can remember. So yeah, that was Bishop Cousins.
Yeah, right. So and I forgot what meeting we went to. One of the fraternities meetings, and it was the Alpha's clergy were there to take, and they were called upon to go out and take a picture because Vinton Anderson was going to be. Cousin was preaching, and Vinton Anderson is the one who recommended him. Vinton Anderson was a strong member of Alpha Phi Alpha.
Right. Yes, he was.
In terms of that, and so there's been that long historical relationship. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll tell you this because I know you don't know it. The reason Albert Tyson was not an Alpha until later, because he had to wait for his father to pass, who was a Kappa.
I did not know that.
Tyson's grandfather was an Alpha.
Okay.
And so Tyson was waiting. The minute, as you know, the minute that his father passed, he immediately pledged.
He used to give me so much gruff about being an Alpha and where my loyalties lie. But, one funny thing is my deacon ordination, and I'll just say this, my deacon, which was actually at Coppin, my deacon ordination, James Cone preached.
Yeah, okay.
And I didn't know at the time James Cone was an Alpha.
That's right.
And I didn't find that out until later. And, I devoured his books. Black Theology of Liberation is one of my Bibles, and and God of the Oppressed is another book that I swore by. And I always regretted that, while I did meet him and got to talk to him, I always regretted I never got the chance to grip him. And so I looked at that. But, I look at the AME Church now. We mentioned Bishop Wright, Bishop McAllister, who is an Alpha, got initiated up here, Rose de Lambda. And I know we have a couple of other bishops that are Alphas as well. So it's always been a healthy relationship between the fraternity and our and the church. But let me ask. So you spent 18 years at Bethel, and you did amazing work. As I referenced earlier, Brother Dino Robinson. Some of the work that he has done has included the impact of Bethel Evanston, and part of your ministry out there factored into it. But then did you leave Bethel to go to Coppin, or did you? How did that?
I ran my mouth too much in Bethel. I stood up one Sunday, and it was halfway through the conference year, and not a single soul had joined the church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe it's time for me to leave. I said that from the pulpit, but just like I'm talking to you now.
Right.
And Clarence Robinson was my
was your presiding elder.
Mm-hmm. And so he went on and told Bishop Cousin that I wanted to leave the church, leave it. And once he told him, 23 males joined the church. 23. Wow. They came in a group and joined the church, and it was so ironic. But Clarence told me, he said, "But your name is already in the hat." Okay, and so like I said, I ran my mouth too much, and Bishop Cousin sent me to Coppin. Now, Coppin was not a stranger to me. because I did spend a little over a year and a half there on staff, and I knew the people, and a great bunch of people, but they have high regards for their city and what particularly the work that has been done in their city. Coppin was in the middle of all of that,
Right.
and the Washington Park area, trying to get that up and strong. They were very strong at that. And so it gave me an opportunity to do a lot of good things. I mean, we did Coppin House, and
can you talk about Coppin House a little bit?
Yeah, and Coppin House right there on Calumet, and right before you get to the park, right before you get to the Obama lab, you can see the Obama facilities right down the street from it.
Right.
And that was a quote unquote throwaway piece of property because nobody wanted it, except the University of Chicago. They knew about it, and they were going to get the whole area. But Coppin was able to get its piece first. Now, Coppin found interested in, and we got the organization. Skip my memory now, but the name. We joined together with them, and we were partners, and we were able to get the facility. Coppin House had that there are over 4,000 at that time. I'm talking about 2008 or so. At that time, over 4,000 Cook County males were being released from child care because they had outgrown it, and they had to go find someplace else to live.
Right.
Okay. And so we started the first in the country to have a Coppin House where we were going to be able to bring these young men into the church. We specifically at that time did young men. Okay, we're going to bring them into the church and partner them with the family in the church, and that family is going to take care of the X number of young men that's in Coppin House. And unfortunately, it got off the ground, but we lost a lot of funding when a new governor came into the place, and that cost us some problem. But we kept the Coppin House. It still exists.
Right.
But it's not as strong as we wanted it to be. But it's still there, and it's two buildings now instead of one because the lots weren't large enough to build a high rise on them. So, but it was needed. We tried. I put it that way, and that was a good thing for us.
Yeah. And so after your few years at returning to Coppin, you became a presiding elder, and so people also understand that AME Church. We look at it. You have pastor, minister, presiding elder, bishop, and right. So you. I think Reverend Thomas Hughes, who I used to work for, we talked about earlier. He used to call being a presiding elder the ultimate in middle management.
Right.
That's what he used to say. But what was your experience like as presiding elder, particularly with you being up in the Milwaukee district?
Well, I spent time in the Milwaukee district, and then I spent about 5 years in Chicago. So I was
right. Then they moved you to the North District, right?
To the North District.
Right.
But it was great being the presiding elder. And it there's some difficult times you may have, but Bishop Bryant said to me when he's the one that appointed me an elder. He said, "What I'm doing is you are the education, that is needed in this district.
Mm.
You know, and I mean, you think you know things, but you don't really see them as well as you can when you become an elder. When
Right.
you're on the other side, you can really see the difference and see what is needed and see what is necessary. And I think the Milwaukee district, really grew from that, and we started having larger crowds coming into our churches, and so it's just it was a great experience for me, and also a good addition for the church. What I did do, and I still boast about this, when I was sent to the Milwaukee district, okay, I gladly took the responsibility and went there. There were only two females pastors, okay, and one was up in Delavan, Wisconsin, with
Yeah.
right. So I was able, when I left there were 8 women that were pastoring the church, and for that, it came easy because all you had to do was look at the quality of the person, and you knew that you wanted them, and but it wasn't like I was going out particularly, just to get females into the pulpit. Nope, they earned their right. They earned their right to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And and pivoting back to the fraternity for a moment, you served as president of Mu Mu Lambda. You were named Brother of the Year by your chapter. I remember hearing about that. And your activities. It seems to me that, and while this is not that all that uncommon, that a lot of your activities that you did in fraternity were mirrored by activities that you did in ministry, either as a pastor or as a presiding elder. And can you, what were? I mean, you've been a convention chairman. You've been on the board of Educational Foundation. Can you think about, or can you point to like any particular highlights within Alpha that you were able to accomplish through your time, not only being president of Mu Mu Lambda, but with some of the other things that you were able to accomplish? Is there anything that particularly kind of
It was 2 things.
Okay.
One of them, one of them was there was 2 personalities that I had to manage. One I paid, one I had to, beg and plead and ask them to come do work for nothing. One got paid on the others, and it taught me something. For those who were getting paid, that you should have a higher expectation out of them than those that are not getting paid. The ones that are not getting paid, you have to pay attention to them because they're developing their ministry, and they may be seniors, but they still are doing that.
Right.
And once you get the handle on that, it does a lot for your ministry, because now I know how to approach people. I don't yell and scream in the church like I do on the job.
Right.
And then I learned that even though you are paying them, you also have to respect them.
Right.
So I learned some things, and it was interesting dynamics that were taking place, but I enjoyed it. I really did.
And so, in terms of because I remember the 2009 regional convention in Oak Brook, that was right around the time when I was just starting to make the decision to get reactive, and actually I remember running into you at that convention, because I hadn't seen you in a couple of years. I remember you joke with me like, "Oh, are you coming back? Did you pay your dues yet?" or something like that. You know, you were joking me about that, but I mean, that was a great convention in Oprah,
right.
as I remember. And so, you know, when you look at your career in Alpha, what is there anything or anyone that I mean, you mentioned Jim Irving earlier, but is there anyone else that had an impact on you, or someone that you feel you had an impact on outside of, you know, people like myself or Brother McKinnis or even Brother Bernard Jakes, who speaks extremely highly of you.
Yeah.
So, you know, in your career in Alpha, you know, what has been like a really shining moment?
Right. You know, the greatest shining moment is I got two sons that are life members. Okay. Right.
I was going to bring that up, but you brought that up for me.
And their father didn't pay for it, you know, for their life membership. They earned it. They paid for their own. They wanted to be Alpha men, and so I just had to put that in case I forget. You know, you know that I know they're mimicking their father, and I got to give them a good example. Okay. And that's the thing that's most important to me at this point. Okay, I didn't mean to not give me your question again, because I forgot that, because I had to get that.
I mean, no, that's fair. I was asking, you know, for a shining moment in Alpha, but I think it's perfectly fair to reference your sons who are both good, hardworking members of the fraternity.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't, you know, I mean that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. But you know, there were several brothers and non-brothers that really impacted my ministry and my life. Okay, I was probably a little bit stubborn. There's no question about that. And you know, I had to learn a few things from the School of Hard Knocks. You know,
right.
But you know, but I was able to survive it once I saw it. Okay. And I say to you clearly, you know, God really, he did some wonderful things for me in taking care of my family. You know, one time I was gone all the time, but you know, but we were blessed. We were just blessed, and so I give thanks to God for that. I think people like Clarence not Clarence. Well, I'm gonna get to Clarence Robinson, but Clarence Lewis. I don't know if you remember Clarence Lewis.
I remember the name.
Right, but Clarence was had physical problems that came down on him in the war. So he was in the whole time I've known him. He was in a wheelchair, but that didn't stop him from being active in the chapter. I mean, he actually started the Alpha program that we were having and he had us bringing kids to work with us, okay, so they could see us at work and what was happening. Those kind of things that have very meaningful when you can see an able-bodied person, you know, dragging their feet, and someone in a wheelchair working very diligently, trying to make a difference in life. And then these you know, and then these brothers, they weren't trying to be shining light apples. They wanted to be, you know, in touch with their community, making a difference in there. And I can call off names of those that did real well. I mean, one guy, Bill Wilson, he was a vice president at one of the steel companies over in right across the Lake County. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right. That you know that he would pay for whatever, and we would go earn it in some kind of other way. Ernie Gibson, you know, You know, Ernie, he got started. He and a couple of others, you know, got us started. But when the church in DuPage was founded, we had an Alpha brother that was there. He was there requesting, just like Sidney Williams was doing it. So right. I mean, so it's not like we're not in the right place at the right time. We're always at the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
And so it's not because we are Alpha men. It's because we want to do what we can for our community.
Exactly.
And that's what we try to do.
So I have one final question that I want to ask. You know, I'm sure you've heard either directly or indirectly about this rash on social media lately over the last couple of years about people denouncing Black Greek letter organizations, making accusations that we are not of God, not of Jesus, that we are demonic, we are satanic, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to, as a seasoned member of Alpha Phi Alpha and as a seasoned minister, I would like to ask you, what is your take on that? What are your thoughts on this trend of denouncing and making these allegations against our collective organizations?
You know, I'm trying to be careful with what I say.
Okay.
You have the right. You don't have the right to become an alpha. Alpha invites you, but if it's not to your taste, you have a right to go away.
Right.
And not leave behind trashy statements and things. As we would say in African Methodism, when they want to go to another denomination, give me back my papers and you can go and we'll pray for you.
Right.
I don't think, and I think you will agree with the statement, I don't think arguing about whether Jesus did this for them and didn't do this or whatever with people who you know are ignorant in their theological understanding.
Right.
You can't, you know, I can't recall it, but there's a piece in the book of Acts where the guys, they were arguing about the way that they wanted to start to make the church go, and one of the philosophers' argument and point was that if it's of God, it will flourish.
Right.
If it's not of God, it would disappear.
Right.
I'm not going to sit and debate you on how good God has been to you versus how good God been to me. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and debate to you that you got more than I got out of God. You know, I'm not going to do that. I know what God has done for me, and it may not have been much more than an inch, but I know what He's done for me. I don't think it's right, you know, to be so outgoing that you're gonna want to publicly embarrass the chapter. I'm sorry, but the fraternity.
Right.
You know, we don't want to do that. You know, take your marbles, put them in your pocket, and you go your way, and I go mine. Okay, and that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
We know exactly what the pledge in the book that we use, and we know what we're quoting. Okay.
Right.
So what you're doing is when you start fighting that, you picking on all of us, and if you think all of us are wrong, that's your thought.
Right.
Okay. I still think the way I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to argue with somebody who I think is not right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before I really wrap things up, I will be remiss if I did not ask, how is your lovely wife doing?
She's doing well. She's doing well. She wanted to come to the meeting, but we told her this is an alpha meeting. right.
And so people know that your wife is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
That's right.
She is, and she's always been a wonderful. Like I said, you both were very kind to me during my ministry. Alpha related or not related, and that's one of the things that I personally remember about you is the kindness and support that you extended towards me, especially when I stepped away from the pastorate. You were one of the people that continue to offer me words of support and guidance. So I want to take this moment, because I've never been able to say this to you, directly. I should have, but I do want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your kindness. I want to thank you for your support over the years. And I know I don't speak just for myself, but I know you have been a definitive impact towards others. Actually, we have a comment we have a comment that says, as my father in the ministry, Reverend Walter Bauldrick, has had a tremendous positive impact on my ministry and my life. This comes from Crosstown Ministries 5325. And so, thank you for that comment. And that just goes to, we can look at, that old saying, a tree is known by the fruit it bears. Mm-hmm. And I think the fruit that you have borne with individuals like myself and, Brother McKinnis, and to the comment that just brought up, that you were very helpful to a number of us. And we collectively thank you. And maybe you don't hear that enough, but hopefully, at least at this point. I'm sorry, that's Reverend Charlie Cross who said that.
Yeah.
So the pastor of my home church, my mother's pastor.
Right.
And I did send him a note specifically. We have another comment. He is a blessing to all who have known him, and I will completely agree with that. And it's important, particularly for people who are looking to go into ministry or interested in different areas of ministry, to have mentors and individuals like yourself who provide the type of impact that you do. So, Reverend Brother Bauldrick, I do want to thank you. As we get ready to wrap up, are there any parting words you want to say, and tell your wife that the decision for her not to come on wasn't mine. She could have come on because Sister Pat can do what she wants. So But
I just thank you for the opportunity. But I just wanted the audience to know that I just truly believe God has been good, and God continue will be good and strengthen all of us as we serve Him and do the things that we're supposed to do. And I'm done.
Absolutely. Well, we thank God for you, and we thank God for your ministry, and we thank God for the influence that you have had on all of us. I see our district director is coming back on real quick to, or he popped off again. But with that being said, Brother Bauldrick, thank you again so much for taking the time. Thank your son for helping to facilitate all of this and get everything set up. And we, on behalf of the District of Illinois, we do thank you for the service that you have given all of us. And we're just happy to have had this opportunity. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much
for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. And with that being said, I do want to our listeners and to our viewers, I want to thank you all again for tuning in. On behalf of our district director, Dr. Leonard McKinnis, we do want to thank you. We still have a number of chats coming up over the next couple of months. One of them coming up in October will be with the distinguished Brother John Apple Lane. We're going to be talking with people from the Obama Center, and we have some others. So please subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, or wherever you're following us, so you can keep up with us and get informed of our upcoming episodes. So again, for the District of Illinois, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.